thank you everybody for joining the Norton Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. As everybody knows, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, limiting the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting is being conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. To participate in the meeting, join in the following ways. Join online via the Zoom link available on the posted agenda for this meeting, or using the Zoom app with meeting ID 638-929-1060. There is also a dial-in number listed. You can also view the meeting on Norton Cable Access, or the next day on the Norton Media Center's YouTube page. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Please feel free to email questions to the board ahead of the meeting or during the meeting to the town planner, Paul DiGiuseppe. His email address is listed on the town's website. Additionally, you'll find meeting materials on the Town of Norton's Planning Board website. Thank you very much everybody for joining. We do have a little bit of going to go out of order a little bit here in terms of the agenda, but we do want to be able to take care of it's kind of our general business to kick off here. I do not believe we have any updates in terms of planning board business and policies, and Paul, I did not see any bills or warrants in the warrants or minutes in the folder for today's meeting.
Correct.
So those three, A, B, and C, are knocked off of the agenda pretty quickly. We did have a request from the applicant for 176 South Washington Street / Three Lopes Drive, which is special permit 6691, to be asked to be kind of heard at the top of the agenda, because they do have an additional meeting that one of the participants has an additional meeting that they need to attend, also virtually. So I think we can go ahead and take that out of order to kind of kick things off here, and then we will go back to the A&R endorsement 7271. We don't need a motion to take that out of order, do we, Paul? We don't need a motion to take that out of order, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to open back up or continue the discussion on special permit 6691, 176 South Washington Street, which is the application for a special permit to relocate a billboard currently located at Three Lopes Drive. Obviously, this took up a significant course of discussion in our last meeting, and we have, for the members, we have our draft decision in the Dropbox, as well as the surety agreement, and Paul, you uploaded the ZBA decision as well here. So I will just pose this question to the members of the board. Are there any additional comments or questions that we have based on the draft decision available or the other documentation that we have available to us? Oren, if you want to go ahead, I see your hand / finger raised there. So,
one minor thing on the decision, I think I asked Paul about it also. Number 5, I just didn't understand it. The finding of fact, it says the special permit is a result of the planning board and the town department's comments to provide another overall special permit. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to. Is that in there for a particular reason?
It's been in previous ones. I think it's actually been in and out of them. When I drafted this, it was taken. Much of this language in this draft was taken from the original special permit. I don't know that this adds any particular value to it. And I think in recent ones we've actually removed it, and I should have done the same. I should have just taken that out. I
think the intent of the number there is to basically suggest that the permit has been discussed through all the town departments and is in a good state. Yeah, I tend to agree at this point it doesn't necessarily add value, but it's just formalized in the fact that different town departments and the planning board have weighed in and discussed the various aspects. So, are there any other comments from members of the board?
I'm fine with the rest of the decision. I did have a question on the decommissioning agreement.
The surety agreement?
The assurance. I think we have to change the entity. It says Carroll Advertising LLC. I think at one point that was proposed to be the party that was going to get title to that lot. It shows the permit is by Carroll Advertising Company, Inc. And I query whether that should probably be the current owner as opposed to Carroll Advertising LLC. Not sure what entity that is.
Carroll is listed as the applicant here, so that seems to...
Well, the Carroll Advertising Company, Inc. is shown here as the applicant.
Yeah, we reconfigured the company a while back, and sometimes language gets put in. So it's the same company. We went from an incorporated to an LLC very recently.
When you took title in the name of Carroll Easement LLC, was that something else that's different? There was a different entity, and then you sold that to JV? I just didn't know whether that's supposed to be the record owner of the property or somebody else. You know, you listed there as the applicant in the second paragraph, but as a developer, is the permit running to that entity or some other entity, or does it run to the record owner?
I believe that the purchase of that land was through Carroll Easements, and the billboard owner is Carroll Advertising.
And
we've always done them as the applicant on the shirt.
And then the other question...
To your point, Oren, in point number 7, near the middle of the surety agreement document, it does list that successors would be bound by the terms as well. So I'm not worried about the the incorporated versus LLC.
And then the other question I have is just references map 18 lot 188. The lot Lopes Drive. Does that include both A and D? That map reference at this point?
Yeah, Dan, we've talked about this, and it is it does cover it.
Okay.
I agree, because what will happen is when the assessor's department gets around to incorporating the title and these new plans into account, all that will be merged into that one parcel. So it'll all be that one assessor's identification.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments from members of the board or members of the public? We've
again, without 159 counties, they're starting to trickle in. Most of your
Paul, if you could, let's see, whoever's on there we go. Never mind, they muted themselves. Perfect. Hearing no further comments, I would look for an action from the board on the decision that we have here.
Tim, do we need to close the public hearing first?
That would be an action, yes.
Okay, I'll move to close the public hearing for special permit 6691.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Julie, for the motion and Steve for the second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will move to the vote based on how I have people arranged in front of me here. Oren?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So the special permit hearing for 6691 is now closed. Is there anything further that members would like to discuss? Or should we continue to move forward?
So I'll motion to approve with the conditions laid out, removing that number 5 there.
Thank you, Steve, for the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Julie, for the second. Is there any further discussion?
5 under finding of facts, sorry.
Yes. I think Paul understood what you were saying, but thank you for restating. So we have a motion by Steve and a second by Julie. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will move to the vote again. Oren?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So the motion has passed. And Paul, if you can work on getting this decision posted and through that whole process that you do so well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate you taking us out of order.
We all have crazy lives happening during this current environment, so
Have a good night.
you too.
Thank you all.
I'll get that to you, Tim, tomorrow. Just that one minor change, and then send it to Julie after you've okayed it.
Okay. Okay. Moving back to the agenda, the rest of the agenda, next item was an A&R endorsement for 76 Oak Street. Do we have, it looks like, Frank, it looks like you're online as from the surveyor working on this project.
That is correct.
Do you want to give a quick overview of what's happening with this A&R?
The land is owned by Stephen and Tammy Lasivina. They have resided in the rear portion of the property.
Appears you may be frozen or I'm frozen, one or the other.
I was hearing him.
Sorry, I froze for a second there.
Okay. The applicants, Steve and Tammy Lasivina, have resided at the rear portion of the property at 76 Oak Street for a number of years. It was an acreage parcel of land that had 150 feet of frontage down the street on the right-hand side. Within the past approximate 1 year, they purchased the property that is shown as 70 Oak Street that also had an existing dwelling on it. 70 Oak Street had a little over 376 feet of frontage and approximately 4 acres. They wish to reconfigure the property, leaving 76 Oak Street with 150 feet of frontage and roughly 1.5 acres of total area, and taking the rest of the frontage and area and combining it with their existing property at 76. This enables them to, at a future date, possibly gain another lot at 76 Oak Street, but nothing is definitively planned for that at this time. We believe that both the lots shown as Lot 1 and Lot 2 comply with the current zoning regulations. Both lots have 150 feet of frontage, both have sufficient area, and both parcels do meet the requirements for the shake factor.
Okay, thank you. So essentially in practice what this is doing, it is shrinking what is becoming Lot 2 by about half.
That is correct.
Are there any additional questions from members of the board based on the plans that we have in front of us?
Right, just for clarification, the current lot configuration is that tracking the parcels, the two parcels that are shown, 55 and 254? Those are the current lot lines?
Yes, it is. The current lot lines are shown as assessor's map part, map 21, parcel 55, and parcel 254. There is stone walls along those lines right now.
Okay.
Anything further from members of the board?
Tim, motion to endorse the A&R.
Thank you, Julie, for your motion.
This is Scott, I'll second.
Thank you, Scott, for the second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. Orin?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So, endorse the A&R. Frank, just so you're aware, in COVID, the board has made the decision to elect a sole signer in the person of the chair. So the copy that you get will only have one signature on it, but that's all been through the registry, et cetera, et cetera. So, Paul, we can work out a time to sign that as well and move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Okay. And the other item on our agenda this evening is special permit 494, which is 0 Rear Eddy Street, which is the application for a special permit for a common driveway, duplexes, and development in the Wetland Protection District. And I do believe we have the applicant here. So we all have updated maps and condition tracking in the Dropbox here. But I guess, Craig, I don't know if you want to take the lead on here in terms of presenting kind of what the latest and greatest update since we saw you last, which has been a little while.
Yeah. Hello, how are you doing? Yeah, we last were here in July, and then we ran into the issue that our engineer, he's 82 years old, so he was no longer able to help us in the way we needed, and we were in the process of designing our drainage system, and that's where we came to a halt. We were connected with Margaret Bacon, who is on, of Civil Site Engineering out of Uxbridge. So she has completed the drainage design, the drainage report, so that her drainage system has been placed onto the plans. I think the last time we were here, we had talked about what the fire department had gone over with us, the 3 items that they had asked to be addressed. The one was to make our driveway, the driving surface, 20 feet wide, which we've done. They wanted to be sure that it's a stable driving surface, which is a gravel driveway. That's a stable driving surface. And then they they gave us the template for the largest machine, the fire truck that would have a 43-foot radius. So at our cul-de-sac, we went to a 48-foot radius to accommodate that. So we've addressed, that was the last time we came before you, and then we had to put it aside for the drainage system. So we're here for the special permit for the common driveway and also a special permit for duplex units on the lots within the Wetlands Resource Protection District. So what Margaret has done for the drainage system is swales and infiltration basins. And then for the units themselves, rain gardens will be used for the roof water. This time we are preparing, Guarded consultant was brought in for the wetlands portion of this, and now that we have a full drainage report and drainage system design, they can file that with the Conservation Commission. So obviously at this time we don't have their permission or their approval for the design, but what we're asking for them to approve is pretty common. We're working in some areas, wherever we can, we're staying out of the 100-foot buffer, but the road, the only place it can be, looking at the distance between Taunton Avenue and the wetlands line, we're outside the 25-foot buffer zone, but all that driveway for the first, I think it's 400 feet, is within the 100-foot buffer zone. So we will need their approval for the design, but we're not proposing anything radical. We're not disturbing any wetlands vegetation. We're not working at the wetlands line. So the individual lots will have on-site septic and individual wells for each unit. As far as electric, we will bring that down the driveway underground. Typically, when we do a subdivision, we would get approval of the design of the road and then give that to the electric department, and they would tell us where they want the transformers. So this being a common driveway, we would look, the driveway itself is 1,300 feet long. We will go from the overhead lines on Taunton Avenue, bring it underground onto our site, and they'll have to determine how many transformers and handholds and such that they need. So as far as the utilities, that's how we plan on handling that. The fire trucks, if they had a fire on the site, they bring, the trucks are pumping, they hold water and they use those to pump the fire. So we won't have a water main on the property. I don't believe there is a water main in that portion of Taunton Avenue. We worked on Eddy Street directly behind this, and we had to use wells over there. Don't believe there's a water main we could tie into in that area. As far as the driveway, your bylaw allows or suggests a 500-foot length unless we can provide proper turning radius for emergency vehicles, which we have a 1,329-foot long gravel driveway, but we do have the 48-foot radius that accommodates the fire truck based on the template that the fire department gave us.
Okay. You mentioned filing with conservation. That has not been filed yet?
Well, they were waiting on the drainage report, which I believe Margaret gave to Guarded Consulting today. When we brought in Margaret, I mean, everybody in this industry is just straight out. So to ask her to jump into the middle of a project, she was able to do it when she could, and we appreciate everything she's done. But you know, everybody's just straight out. So it took a while to get this straightened out. So I believe Guarded Consulting, when I spoke to them yesterday, they were waiting on her report, and that was the last piece that they needed.
Okay. So it would potentially be on a conservation agenda in late January, early February at the earliest.
If they were to file it this week, I mean, conservation meets every 2 weeks, so
yeah,
within 3 weeks we should get on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. So I think, Oren, you had put some comments in the Dropbox, which I looked through a little bit. I think that some of them have been addressed, and some of them I'm not sure if you want to run through it all, if there are any other members who would like to ask questions as well. Unless, Craig, you have additional portions of kind of an overview you want to give, or you want to...
Speaking of, the list that Oren provided, the homeowners association that'll have to be created in order for the road to be taken care of, trash pickup and so forth, the 4 lots using the common driveway. The client would like to wait until that would first occupancy permit, before the first occupancy permit could be issued, that the HOA be put in place. At this time, we don't have full approval from conservation. Some things may change. It seems a little premature to have the HOA in place at this time, but as a condition prior to the sale of the unit for occupancy, they would have that in place.
Okay. In terms of, or anything else that you wanted to address at this point, or given how everything is moving forward? Yeah, I'll just let you speak for yourself.
Yeah, I have just some follow-up. Just so I'm clear, and I understand you're filing all three permits. I didn't see anything, the thing I have in the file just limits the permit asking for a common driveway. Do we literally have a permit application for each of the three permits? Or is it tied into one? Even the one just is a common driveway, it doesn't reference the other permits that are needed. And I just...
Sorry, when you say three, we're asking for the special permit for the common driveway and the use of the construction of duplex units.
Well, and for, I'm assuming you're going to need, you're claiming you need one under the Wetlands Protection District as well. So I just, but I still use just one that I don't know was intended to be covering all three. But
I believe, well, at the beginning of this, I thought, with Paul, I thought we had filed and we had to re-advertise because something was filed, was not filed, and then we took care of that, or it's been so long.
I don't remember re-advertising, but I remember the issue because when you initially submitted it was single family, but then there was a modification that said to duplex.
Yeah. In the application, which is in the file, it does specify that it is in the Wetlands Protection District, that it is going to be used for duplexes, and that it would use a common driveway to serve 4 lots. I think all of the pieces are there. So it would just be all 3 sets of relief falling under one permit. Is that kind of or what you're getting to here?
yeah, I would have thought that each one of them has a separate permit because we're going to be making decisions on each of the permits as opposed to one. I don't know what the process is for a form. But I would just have suspected you'd see 4 different applications. 3 different applications, I'm sorry. Because one just describes the building as a duplex. It doesn't say you're asking for a special permit for a duplex. And it just says that it's in the Wetland Protection District. I agree, it does incorporate it in terms of how it's described. But just for our processes, I would suspect we need 3 different ones so we can respond separately.
So essentially, you're contrasting it as kind of as what we did on Blue Star, essentially, where the common driveway was its own special permit number.
Yeah, I would suspect that you'd need to do that. But each of these is having because you're not going to have one decision. You're going to have 3 decisions. You're going to have one decision approving all 3. I've never seen us doing it that way.
We've done that where, for example, the Cumberland Farms, where you had 3 special permits and a site plan, and you voted on them individually. So that's one we did that also. We've done that in a couple of other cases too, where the decision, it's one decision but multiple votes. You vote on each of the special permits separately.
So, Warren, does that answer your question on that point in terms of how the
answers it. I don't know that that's proper, but you may want to double check with council. But I don't think I think we should be having separate applications. I'm not trying to make things difficult, but just leaving it that way doesn't really address, the permitting process from my perspective. You may want to double check that. The other question I had was, we sent your applications to the conservation, and on May 6th, they submitted comments. you responded to Conservation's comments and provided any plans and status pursuant to those
Well,
comments?
back in May, the plans were not ready to be submitted to conservation. I believe we did address it at that time.
All right. My concern is we're in a wetland protection district. We certainly, we probably as a need to say, are we going to defer to them and wait for their comments, or are they taking more action? I don't know that I myself, speaking for myself, is in a position to comment on this use within the wetland protection district, whether or not we need peer review or whether we're going to defer this issue to conservation. I'm happy to do that. I don't see you needing to peer review twice. But certainly somebody needs to address the concerns for wetland protection district that are raised by the zoning bylaw. And certainly under the bylaw, we're supposed to give the applications to conservation and they're supposed to give comments. And I think we need as a prelude to any moving forward, making sure at least we get your responses to those comments. I'm just thinking, I'm not saying that you're holding up the process, it's just saying we're going to need that as part of our deliberations if we're going to rely on conservation to address the concerns raised by this district, or we would need to have, from my perspective, our own peer review to do that. And I don't see them wanting to have to go through that cost twice. So I'm not sure how the best to work that out. I'm just pulling it out because from my perspective, I certainly can't go forward unless I get conservation's sign off on what you're doing, and saying that from the wetland protection district issues, which are different than the jurisdictional issues of conservation. They have their set of authority under wetlands districts, as opposed to what's raised under this bylaw raises other concerns. Basically, this bylaw says you can't do anything. There's no building there unless you get a special permit, or if it's for education, or it's for religious reasons, or for single-family houses. Now, that's something different. You're looking for a duplex, which takes it outside of that realm. So one way or the other, I seek to get that information tomorrow. I think I got disconnected. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it froze a little bit.
Just a little bit there. I think we got the. I got the gist of it anyway. I can't speak for everybody else, but Paul, is conservation plan? This is going to go through peer review via conservation. Is that
correct?
Okay.
And can I just, I think, add something to what Oren was saying, and this comes out of the bylaw under the Wetland Protection District. For the special permit, it says the planning board shall find that the proposed building structures or uses will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare, and that the granting of the special permit will not be contrary to the purposes of the Wetland Protection District, or that the land with respect to which the special permit is sought is not subject to periodic or seasonal flooding or inundation. So I think that also aligns with what Oren is saying, that you need to be making a determination as to whether this development will be impacting wetland resources.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have comments from other members of the board here? I want to make sure, Oren, I'm sure you may have one or two more things you want to raise here, but just in terms of giving everybody an open kind of an opportunity to chime in here and hear. Does anybody else have any comments regarding the updated plans that we have here that do lay out kind of the septic areas for each lot, all the driveways, where the duplex will be located, all the rain guards and different drainage aspects. looks like people may be muted, but if there are initial comments, we can keep going there. Oren, I'll go back to you since I kind of told you to hold off there for a second. Did you have any additional comments that you wanted to discuss at this time? Or are we... Okay.
I did want to address the length of this driveway, and to tell you the truth, quite frankly, speaking for myself, I've got a problem. If this was single-family houses, I can address it one way. The fact that it's a duplex gives me some real concern, and that's why even your association, if it's a single-family house, I buy the house, I know what I need, and you're going to give it to me, or I'm not buying the house. With a duplex, I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be rented, and as a renter, I walk into that rental unit not really exploring what the utilities are, what the water is, whether there's lighting on the road, who's going to be doing the snow plowing, and if it's not, what remedies do I have? And that's going to this question of duplex, and I think it's even compounded. I know we've gotten some interpretation as to the specifics of whether or not a duplex is even allowed in a wetland protection district. My concern, my reading of it is it's probably not. But having that set aside, I'm more concerned with it being a duplex, having a long road that's a gravel road, plowing. If I'm the owner, I can control how it's plowed. If I'm a renter and there's two people renting the unit, and there's not an owner around there, and something goes wrong, I don't know how they're plowing a gravel road as opposed to a hard road. If I'm an owner, I'm going to make sure it gets done because I'm going to do it, you're going to pay for it. As a tenant, I don't have that right. The same thing's true with these utilities. I mean, you said yourself, this is a subdivision road, and but for the fact that, you squeaked out some frontage that really you don't have access to these lots through, we're saying it's a driveway road. But I don't know why we as a board shouldn't, in looking at a special permit for a duplex, shouldn't take those things and make sure they're spelled out, so that someone going in there as a tenant is assured of what's going on. We ran into that problem with the solar farm, where people thought, came back to us, they thought they had a fire hydrant that was never connected. And I hate to see that. As an owner, I have less concern, but as a tenant, that's compounded. I don't know whether or not, again, as you said, that the fire trucks contain their water, so there's no fire hydrants here, there's no lighting on the road. I'm going in there, I see a space as a tenant, it's not the winter, and it's light out. I'm not concerned about lights, I'm not concerned about, how you do your plowing, because I'm assuming it's going to get done. So for me, I have a real issue with the duplex part of this. I think certainly even under the Wetland Protection District allows for construction of a single-family house. That's one of the few exceptions that does allow for it. My reading of it, it doesn't allow for a duplex. But as I said before, even that aside, I have a real concern with going forward with this project, is the duplex. And I just want to express that concern. It's mine alone, especially before you get involved with dealing with conservation, everybody else. I don't know if anybody else has the same concern as I do, but I want to at least express that, so I'm not doing it at the back end, I'm doing it up front.
I'm just going to add to that, this is my own interpretation. Wondering what renters are going to think or not think has absolutely nothing to do with the planning board. So I just want to put that on the record.
Okay. Thank you both.
That's like getting out over our skis. There's no need for us to be involved in that.
Yeah. I would tend to agree with you, Steve, to a degree, but I think part of what we're going to be putting in here is probably looking at a potential, Craig, you had mentioned this earlier, the HOA, which would be more, which the applicant would like closer to the certificate of occupancy, but I think that I don't think it would be too strange to look at, for us to expect that snow plowing and those things would be part of that HOA. So I think it's part of the process, and yeah, I mean, or to agree, I think the same kind of thing could be said for anybody who rents an apartment in a condo complex. They're incumbent on the owner of the unit to tell them what's going to happen. We can't be everybody's parent.
Well, that's my business. I manage condo
Yeah.
systems. I mean,
Yeah.
there's. Well, I said my piece.
But yeah, the length of the driveway is something that we need to look at. But I mean, the fire department has made their comments, and we have to weigh those accordingly. Let's see. So, if conservation is doing peer review on the drainage and all of that stuff, that takes that kind of out of what we need to consider this evening. I think that it's, given that conservation hasn't made any kind of recommendations here, and it's certainly possible that there may be modifications to the site plan moving forward. Craig, were you expecting for us to, you were not expecting for us to close the hearing at this point, correct?
Well, I'm sure my client would like you to. But I understand we are in the process of filing conservation, and that is a portion of this process.
But I think part of this process would be the approval of the site plan for us to do that. And if we close the hearing, then we can't take any further comments or updates to those plans. So to me, it feels a little bit early to do that, given that there's still the potential for changes to be made in one way or another. I'll let the other, if other members of the board feel differently, they can certainly make a motion otherwise. But that's my feeling from where I stand. I'm not actually sitting at the moment. But,
well, I would say that I agree with that. I don't know, Sam Wydack is on. He has.
Yes, hello?
we hear you, yes.
Yeah, could we potentially make that in like the order of conditions of this approval? If you guys vote on it favorably?
I think what my point would be is that if we close the public hearing, we cannot accept any further comments from you or from anyone else. So we're kind of locking the plans in place. And if comments from conservation or elsewhere necessitate changes to the plans, then we would have to reopen the hearing and go through a whole process with that. And I don't think you want that.
This is Joe, Tim.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I understand the dilemma, but by the same token, if ultimately, and we've seen this in certain situations in the past, if ultimately we're not going to approve it, there's the common driveway which needs a special permit. Conceptually, I think we ought to provide the applicant with some guidance, not so much guidance, but assurance that we're going to approve the concept of a common driveway, albeit whatever it is, 1,300 or 952 feet, I don't have the plan in front of me. So I think we owe the applicant a green light or a red light on the concept of a common driveway of that length, because otherwise this whole exercise is moot. Now, to the extent that that common driveway may slightly shift as a result of Concom's review, there is some merit to leaving the application open, but I think we owe them at least some guidance as to how we feel about the common driveway.
Joe, I agree with you. In my mind, I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm fine with it unless conservation has an issue.
And since I have brought up the issue, I agree. I'm okay with the common driveway.
Okay. Joe, are you looking to make a motion to that point in some effect, or?
I mean, I don't know that a formal motion has any legal. I mean, we're either, it can't be a little pregnant here. We either approve it or we don't. I think what we want to do is take a poll amongst the members to say, on the concept of the common driveway as it's presented, are we prepared to vote for it unless ultimately there's some monumental issue with the Concom that would require either an alteration or a denial of it.
You're trying to avoid a surprise like we've seen in the past, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I think it's only fair to the applicant, because I don't want to send them down a primrose path with the Conservation Commission, only to go through that exercise and come back to us and say, no, we don't like the idea of a common driveway with duplexes. So, I mean, if we go ahead and vote on it, I understand, Tim, then if it changes, then we start the process all over again because the hearing's closed. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah. I think speaking for myself, I would tend to agree with you in terms of doing kind of a non-binding, less than formal kind of eyes here, because I know you had suggested that with a previous application and we didn't do it, and as Steve mentioned, we had a little bit of a surprise. So I think I would not be opposed to that type of the process here. Joe, I think you said you would generally be in.
I have no issue with the common driveway as presented.
Okay. Steve, I think you had spoken about this, doing at least the informal comments as well. Do you want to say anything further?
I don't see any issue with it whatsoever. Like I said, unless Conservation has an issue, which I doubt. I don't want to speak for them, but yeah, I'm 100% fine.
Okay.
Let me just say something. As a concept for giving the applicant the ability to develop the site, I agree that a common driveway is needed, and I'm not opposed to that in concept. However, from my perspective, I'm more concerned with what we have to do by way of conditioning what has to be in that common driveway. That's from my own perspective, as it relates to protecting the people and the property that's going to be utilized. So, from my perspective, for certainly, if you take my position that I'm okay with as a family, I'm okay with a common driveway. That concept, right, as a concept, is not something that I would oppose. However, I would certainly look to put conditions on it relative to how it could be used and what might be in it. But the concept of the driveway itself is not a problem.
Okay.
Does that help? I don't know if that helps.
I think it does, Oren. Thank you. Julie, you're next on my list here. Did you want to add anything specific or not specific, or you can obviously just say that you want to hold off at this point as well? That's your call.
No, I don't have in concept an issue with the common drive. I think like Oren, there's a few conditions maybe we want to think about putting on that just to make sure that it's maintained and things like that. So I think that, you know, in general, no, I don't have any issue with that.
Okay. And Kevin and Scott, I haven't talked to either of you guys about this. Kevin, I'll have you go first. If you want to say anything, you can feel free to. Or you can say that you're going to hold off for now.
I'm good, Tim. I think the Conservation Commission is going to do their due diligence. The fact that it's development in the Wetland Protection District, and so I don't have any issues right now.
Okay. And Scott, other than myself,
no. What I would add is, I mean, personally, conceptually, I think it's, you know, pretty wild idea. Not really in favor for it, but in the mindset of like the planning board and what lot and land and stuff, you know, I have no hesitations against it. It is kind of a unique oddity, but yeah, no, I have no major concerns with it. given the proper conditioning and clearance with the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your thoughts. I think that, Joe, I think that kind of satisfies your thought process here in terms of allowing the applicant kind of a window into our thought process with a common driveway here. With all that being said, I think it may make sense to continue this to another meeting. I think probably the 19th might be a little bit aggressive for us here, given that conservation filing hasn't happened. Pulling up my calendar here for our February meeting dates, it's not coming up for me. I don't know why.
February 2nd and the 23rd.
Because we're avoiding the President's Day week in the middle there. Okay.
Right.
Craig, do you or the rest of the applicant team have a preference as to where we would tentatively pencil you in for after you've kind of presented to conservation initially and gotten a round of comments from them to kind of let us know whether changes may be coming or not?
Sure, I'd say the second, February 2nd would be a good time. That should give us time to, let's see, I don't know what their schedule is right now, but like I said, they meet every 2 weeks. Obviously, you got the holiday coming up, but that's a Monday. Well, they meet on Mondays, don't they? So, yeah, February 2nd, if we could continue to then.
Okay.
Appreciate all the comments and the input today.
Okay. So looking to continue discussion on special permit 494, potentially to February the 2nd. Is there anything further, or do we have movement on a motion to that effect?
Joe, I'll move to continue this to February 2nd.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Joe, for the motion and Steve for the second. Is there any further discussion from members of the board? Hearing none, I will go to the vote. Oren?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. That is the final item on our post agenda for today. I did notice yesterday that the town clerk noted that the annual election for this April will be on Saturday the 10th. Do we have any members whose terms are ending this April, or no?
May 10. May 10.
I think mine is.
May 2021.
Yeah, there's two. Warren and Joe, yeah.
Okay.
The 10th was on the original notice. Condyne was on it for this hearing. Came off. Do we have to approve a continuance for them?
No, that was my mistake. You had actually continued it to the 19th, and I erroneously put it on there.
Oh.
And I confirmed with the clerk it was fine just to take it off, since that was your action.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I have no idea how you guys are going to get signatures during coronavirus, but I assume everything's kind of moving forward on that front, however it wants to.
And with Roach Brothers closed.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Steve, for the motion.
This is Scott, I'll second.
Thank you, Scott, for the second. Is there any further discussion from members of the board or anyone else? Hearing none. Oren? Joe?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night, Kevin. Good night, Paul. Good night, Orin. Good night, Joe. Good night, Tim. Good night, gang.
Good night, Peter.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Here.
The recording has stopped.